Now, one thing that Warren Buffett also spoke about at the shareholder meeting is he weighed in on de-dollarization. A lot of people are talking about the dollar losing its reserve status. And so Warren Buffett, I don't know if he was asked about it or if he just opined on it, but Warren Buffett said on that score, he doesn't think that the dollar is in danger of losing that because he doesn't see any other currency that is positioned to take the dollar's place. And again, on that, I agree with Warren Buffett. I don't think that any currency should replace the dollar as the reserve currency. But the problem with Warren Buffett's vision is he's looking in the wrong place. He's looking for other currencies and seeing, well, there's problems with the euro, there's problems with the yen, problems with the RMB, and so the dollar is safe because these other fiat currencies, they've got problems of their own. Well, he should look beyond fiat currencies, again, to real money. The alternative that Warren Buffett fails to recognize is gold. Gold is the alternative. And in fact, look at the numbers. Central banks are now buying gold at a record pace. That information just came out. But despite the fact that central banks are buying gold at a record pace, they still don't own nearly as much as they have in the past. They have a lot of gold to buy to catch up to where they need to be, which is much, much higher than they are right now. So the world is already in the process of replacing U.S. dollars with gold. And the dollar did not replace another fiat currency. It replaced gold. Prior to Bretton Woods, all the currencies were backed by gold. Not another fiat currency, gold. And when the United States was able to convince the world to adopt the dollar standard, it was because the dollar was not only backed by gold, but convertible on demand into gold. $35 got you an ounce of gold. And then Nixon defaulted, 1971, right? All this talk about how the U.S. government has never defaulted. We defaulted on our promise to pay gold. Federal Reserve notes were notes. They were obligations of the U.S. government or the Fed to pay gold. We defaulted and paid nothing. So when you're supposed to pay something and you pay nothing, it's a default. So we defaulted in 1971. It's been over 50 years. And now I think the world is going to reject fiat dollars. We told the world that you have to have dollars without gold, and now the world is going to tell us, well, we don't want your dollars anymore. We're going back to gold. And so Warren Buffett doesn't see that, and a lot of people are missing that alternative. They just assume that the dollar is safe because the euro or the yen are no good, and they're overlooking what's obvious, and that is gold. Anyway, though, I want to switch gears and talk about this new, I don't know if they're revelations, but to me it seems like very concrete proof that President Joe Biden, while he was vice president of the United States, was basically the patriarch of an organized crime family. The Republicans had a press conference today in which they presented a very compelling case that the president and his family committed crimes, and particularly Joe Biden. And because he was the vice president, he's the one that took an oath. He's the one that peddled his influence, not even to Americans, but to foreigners, to foreign interests. He basically accepted over $10 million in bribes, which is basically what this was, over the 8 years he was vice president. And the way he was able to launder all of this criminal money, because this is a crime, earning money this way. When you're the vice president and you are selling influence, you are using your authority for the advantage of people who have paid you money, directly paid you money to do something, and then you do something in exchange for that bribe, that is illegal. And then when you try to disguise the illegal nature of that money through complicated structures, you are laundering that money. You are committing multiple crimes. And I think the Republicans have already made a very compelling case that you don't need to be Perry Mason to get a conviction of Joe Biden. After he was elected president, the Republicans reported that the Biden family created 16 shell companies, all these LLCs with different names, but not a single legitimate business purpose for any of these companies. I mean, first of all, why do they need 16 companies, right? And now these 16 companies with no legitimate business purpose, no operation, no product, no service, they all start getting paid over $10 million. And who knows, maybe it's a lot more than $10 million. I don't know, I said over $10 million. And all the money is coming from foreign entities, right? China or other countries are paying all this money to these shell companies. And then the shell companies start moving the money around without any purpose among each other, right? Money goes from one to the other. And then ultimately it gets distributed to Joe Biden's family, just his family. 9 different family members receive money from these 16 shell companies. You got his brother that got money, his daughter-in-law, his wife, even his ex-wife got in on the action. His grandkids were getting money. Nieces and nephews were getting money. What were they doing? They weren't doing anything. The only person who was probably doing something was the big guy, Joe Biden. Maybe to a lesser extent, his son, Hunter, maybe was able to throw a little weight around Washington, D.C. because everybody knew, that he was the big guy's son. And so maybe, he could lean on people in place of his dad. But without his dad, he didn't have any muscle. But I'm sure that Joe Biden was delivering, because these payments would not have continued for 8 years. I mean, he's getting all this money. People are paying him on multiple occasions. Obviously, they're getting something for their money. They're not just, giving all this money to the Bidens, because they like them. Obviously, they're paying for something. They're not fools. They're not going to give over $10 million and get nothing in return. Now, what's really amazing to me is even more so than what Biden did, because, this doesn't surprise me that you have a criminal and a liar who's a politician. I mean, that shouldn't shock anybody, right? That Biden would do this. I mean, think about Joe Biden. He's been in politics most of his life. He had 6 terms in the U.S. Senate, 36 years.